Call us 800-370-3447 or visit us at qnlabs.com. That's qnlabs.com. Also available on Amazon.
One Love Tennis started in 2013 to give back to young boys and girls. We now go through 460 kids a week that are learning about life skills, learning to succeed in life through academics and tennis. Putting those two together, if you do them well, you can write your own ticket. To get involved in this program, go to our website, one-love-tennis.org.
Bringing you the best local talk radio shows, Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7 FM, WFBT, Carolina Beach.
Welcome to Recovering Hope. My name is Mark Markley, and I'm here to share stories of hope, of recovery, and some experiences many have had that ended up as a tragedy. In all these scenarios, we have and will continue to learn from people from all walks of life, from all over our great country. Drug addiction, drug abuse, and drug poisonings are all too common, and attention needs to be given to the resources that are available to you no matter where you live. That is our mission. Recovering Hope is a division of Prodigal Recovery, which is a local group home for men here in Wilmington, North Carolina. Prodigal Recovery is a nonprofit 501c3 corporation. If you would like to help support our efforts with a tax-deductible donation or become a sponsor of this program, please contact us at prodigalrecovery.org. You can also call anonymously 910-338-3795.
I raise a hallelujah in the presence of my enemies.
I think I say this every week, but I love that song. Good evening and welcome to Recovering Hope. I have kind of a new name for this. I'm calling it the Recovering Hope Godcast. Let's give a little glory to God, huh? And speaking of a little glory to God, here's a hope verse for this evening, and it's actually part of the Recovering Hope logo, Hebrews 11:1. Now, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. And I think that that is probably all too often the case, particularly when people are struggling with addiction. And for those of you watching and listening on Facebook, you see my friend Wayne Ray here. Hello, Wayne.
Hey, Mark.
Wave,
how are you?
Wave to the camera. I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you coming in. And, we'll be speaking with Wayne to his story is well worth hearing again, and for those of you that don't know. And we will also be speaking a little bit later with Jon Clarke. Jon Clarke, I refer to as an excellent counselor, and I use that term generally. He really knows how to communicate so well with people battling addiction, and I think it's safe to say that this is a battle. Let's see. Okay. We may be hearing from, this will not be until September. I'm kind of booked up with guests to be interviewed. I have some very good ones lined up. Have you ever heard of Dr. Nora Volkow, Wayne?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I figured you would.
Head of NIDA.
Yes. Director of the National Institute on Drug Abuse, which is NIDA, at the National Institute of Health. And NIDA supports most of the world's research on the health aspects of drug use and addiction. Dr. Volkow's work has been instrumental in demonstrating that drug addiction is a disease of the human brain. And I saw something that she did, it may have been another one of those YouTube presentations, where they dissected the brain, with imaging, and the link between one thing among many that I found interesting is the comparisons of drug addiction and obesity. Have you heard her speak on that?
No, not specifically. I remember her from the HBO series called Addiction.
Okay.
In fact, it was screened here in Wilmington, I guess about 10 years ago. You can probably still find it maybe on Netflix or in the archives. But I remember it being she's the first person that proved, and she gets paid to do research by the federal government, that proved that it takes about a year for the brain to heal itself from being abstinence from all drugs, and it can heal itself back to whatever was normal before a person started using drugs. For all drugs except meth, and if the drug is meth, it takes 2 years for the average methamphetamine user to get back to normal.
You know, it's funny that you say that, because when I communicated with her team, they thanked me for reaching out to them. I was very impressed to get a reply, but she said, "Would you please, give me a few questions that you would like to ask her?" And that was one of them. It is the healing. Now, it would be dependent upon the extent and the number of years that somebody has been using other drugs, right? I mean, that's very encouraging news,
right?
That there's healing.
Yeah, and some things can speed it up. I've been, like exercise, proper nutrition,
right?
Yoga has even been proven to kind of speed up the healing process. But in America, we won't. Speaking of that, the thing that got us into addiction is got people like myself and many others. I saw one thing recently that said there was like 40 million of us in this country that have addiction or substance use dependence is a clinical term. But the same thing that got us into that diagnosis is looking for a quick fix or recreationally, having a good time with our friends, and maybe way back as high school or middle school, and or maybe your story was a doctor prescribed you something for pain. I hear that a lot. Especially like high school athletes, and then I really like this feeling, or they got physically addicted, and the doctor at that time didn't really know how, the addictive components of opioids at the time. And I think when they first came out, OxyContin specifically was sold as a non-addictive painkiller.
Only 1% of people get addicted, according to our friends at Purdue Pharma.
Right. But the same thing that got us into the fix, that is a quick fix to a good feeling, is not going to get us out of it. It takes a while. It takes time. It takes healing. And it might take a relationship with God. It definitely takes time and good nutrition and exercise.
Yep. So anyway, hopefully we'll be hearing from them in September. And if I forget to mention this later on, I think I spoke to you about Deanna Allen. Have you heard her speak? She's from the left coast. I mean, the West Coast. I saw her on a podcast that she had done with another gentleman, and her specialty, if you will, I believe, is helping people incarcerated and to help them as they are released and to get back, to find a job, housing, to help them along the way. I forget where the stats are, somewhere in here, but I think it was when I was talking to Dr. Morse a couple of weeks ago. He pointed out the risks of overdosing the first 2 weeks when somebody's released from jail or prison. And the reasons, they go right back to the same thing and the same dose, and boom, gone. So, but there's something that I wanted to read. I saw something, I think it was just this morning, by Laura Lee Rosano, and you know what? I forgot to ring the bell. Not very loud, but the purpose of that, folks, is within the course of this program, well, not just within the course of this program, approximately every 5.5 minutes, statistically, somebody is dying of drug-related death. And we can't call them overdoses anymore, although many are, but there are many, many that are a result of what we are referring to as fentanyl poisoning. So I'm going to try to remember to ring that bell. When you hear that bell, perhaps say a prayer or just the realization that statistically somebody just died of a drug-related death. Okay, this is from Laura Lee Rosano, very good author, counselor. This woman has just such a gift. And this is called Don't Let Shame Write Your Story. People like myself who struggle with substance use disorder don't know they're addicted until the damage has already been done. By the time someone realizes they need help, they're in serious trouble. NIDA, National Institute on Drug Abuse, defines addiction as a chronic, relapsing brain disease that is characterized by compulsive drug seeking and use, despite harmful consequences. Substance use disorder affects the area in your brain responsible for rational thinking, cause and effect, and impulse control. In other words, addiction lies to you in your own voice. When I finally went to rehab, I was shaking with fear, but I masked my anxiety with a calm face and an attitude of indifference. A smiling woman met me at the door and asked a question I would hear many times afterwards. She asked, "How are you feeling?" As if going to rehab was an ordinary occurrence, I replied, "Fine." Fine was my go-to answer. Fine means I don't want to talk about it. Fine means let's move on. Fine means stop asking questions. Fine means leave me alone. I wasn't about to tell the strange woman smiling, or anyone else for that matter, my sordid little story. And the truth was, I wasn't fine. I was in way over my head. Drugs and alcohol had taken control of my life and turned it upside down. Only days before, I'd been contemplating ending it all. Not because I wanted to die, but because I wanted the insanity to stop. When the most destructive force in your life is yourself, you need help. But help is a hard word to say. If you don't believe me, try it sometime. There were times I contemplated asking for help, and then shame would stop me. Shame is defined as a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior. However, when you're addicted, shame is much deeper than that. Shame writes loser on your soul with a big black marker. Inflicting self-harm and hurting people you love produces the darkest feelings of shame, guilt, and loneliness. The only relief from these feelings is to get high, which promotes more shame, guilt, and loneliness. Sadly, when your car needs repair, you take it to a mechanic. When you're physically sick, you go to the doctor. When your thoughts are dark, your soul is broken, you hide. In treatment, I learned addiction is less about drugs and alcohol and more about the absence of self. It's described as a hole in your soul, and you can't love others when you're empty inside. Recovery peels back the painful layers and heals through connection, honesty, and hard work. To love yourself is the beginning of lifelong recovery. If you're struggling with addiction or love someone who is, reach out. Because as it turns out, asking for help is not an act of weakness, but one of great strength. Laura Lozano. And folks, I recommend looking her up. More information on her, spell her name, Lorelie, Laura Lee Rozzano, Rozzano. Or you can go to jaggedlittleedges.com. That's one of 5 books that she's authored. I would highly recommend, especially if you are in this battle, even if you just friend her on Facebook and can read these posts. Sometimes they're too long, and I realize this probably went a little long for a reading on the radio, but she's just so good, so well written, and she's just got this natural authenticity about her that I think is very helpful. Some of that ring true to you?
Good deal.
One more time. Thank you. Some of that ring true with you, Wayne?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, people that don't want to ask for help. I know I'm the type of person that doesn't like to ask for help. I'll offer it, whenever I can. That's one reason that I'm here. But, some people think it's, you're not a man if you ask for help. Well, sometimes it takes a man to express his feelings and his emotions and not to just bundle them all up. But it really is. It's a difficult thing, and there are resources, folks. That's why we're here. You can go to recoveringhope.org. There's lots of resources there. They're not all of them. One of the resources on my page is that of the gentleman sitting next to me, Wayne Ray, founded Launchpad Wellness. I don't know if it was called that then, but 20 years ago, right? We've got about a few minutes before we speak to John. Why don't we just do a little recap of yourself? And I'm going to brag on you a second because I said this before we went on the air. Wayne has such a really impressive story. Had just celebrated 25 years of sobriety last month, I think it was. Was it July 19th?
June 29th.
Okay, I knew there was a J and a 9 in there, but it's on my calendar.
Wow.
And, Wayne hitchhiked from
Goldsboro
in 1986.
No, 96.
Why don't you tell the story? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was, I guess I came here to Wilmington. I was in a recovery residence in Goldsboro, and I call it my recovery career. My career, just like Nida pointed out, does include relapse. And but I have not relapsed in 25 years. By the grace of God and the help of a lot of people in recovery. But I came here. I always wanted to live at the beach, and there was a good recovery house here, recovery residence, and there was a guy I met that they said you get here one of two ways: you either feel the heat or you see the light. And for the first time, I felt the heat lots of times and moved and ran and did seek help because you were just talking about which is what things motivate us to seek help.
Right.
And a lot of times it was because I was feeling the heat of homelessness, of being a failed father, of maybe a probation officer at one time, or just a couple of things. But this time I heard this gentleman speak at a meeting in Goldsboro, and wow, he just inspired me. The light came on. I saw the light. And I asked the guy after the meeting, I said, hey, where do you live? He said, I live in Wilmington, North Carolina. I said, I've always wanted to live close to the water anyway. I said, I'm going to come down there, and maybe you could help me out and be my sponsor. And he said, okay, come on.
Wow.
So I wasn't working with much, but I did have 90 days clean in a row at that point.
Okay.
And I got my two hefty bags, suitcase together, and came here. And
literally hitchhiked.
Yes.
Wow.
And I never... he never did become my sponsor, but we became good friends. And years later, he passed away in Ocala, Florida, and I went down to his funeral. And Keith Lewis was his name, and he was a legend in our town and the recovery towns all over this country. You can find him online still, Keith Lewis, AA speaker.
Oh, wow.
And anyway, I don't know posthumously are we supposed to break people's anonymity or not, but anyway, I just did.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, the recovery residents scene, Wilmington today, and Mark and I both are involved with this in different ways. It is we started Launchpad in 2001. I had almost 5 years clean at that point. And we started it, and then you started Prodigal House. What year?
Almost 4 years, 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And we continue to learn, but if you look at recovery residences and what they do, and I'm jazzed up about this right now because of what's going on a national level. We're finally getting recovery residents. This isn't as much about my story. Another one passed away from fentanyl poisoning, probably.
Yep.
93,000 people in 2020.
Yep.
And I'm afraid that number's going to be even larger this year.
I'm afraid so too, Wayne.
But recovery residents are a good, efficient way for a place that people can be safe, can be inspired for their own recovery, a good environment. And we're a member of NAR, the National Association of Recovery Residents, and I think you are too.
We're still applying. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. But what a recovery residence can do for a community is when you compare the cost of a night in the emergency room or a night in jail or a night in prison and how much money that is. I think they say now it's around $40,000 a year to house a person in prison, and even more in the local jail. And we're talking about that population that will probably be eligible for perhaps a recovery house bed, and how much it saves the community and is really an efficient way.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. But you left out a very important part, I think.
Oh, I'm sure I did.
Well, there was a few of them, but we'll have the rest of the hour after we talk to John. But just real quickly, the education that you got, you put yourself through school, got a master's degree.
Right.
Somebody who hitchhiked here, 90 days clean, which I just learned. I didn't know if you started your recovery journey when you got here.
No, I went back out. I relapsed.
You did?
I did.
Okay. That was part of the lesson.
Yeah, I didn't take the suggestion when you move from one area to another, do 90 and 90 all over again.
Okay. But we'll get into the I think a little bit later, Wayne. I do want to respect John's time. We're going to take a short break here, folks. When we come back, we'll speak with Jon Clarke. Jon Clarke is the founder of Love Wins Counseling, and we'll learn a few things from Jon. So don't go away, and we'll be hitting that bell every 5 minutes. Constructive Solutions is the name of my construction company. It's called Constructive Solutions because I focus on solving what it is my customers need and want, and there's always a way to get the job done. We're in our 25th year serving our community. We handle all types of home improvements and repairs, literally from your crawl space to your roof, as well as commercial alterations. We're a small, family-owned and operated business. My wife works in the office, and my son Dylan is my right and left-hand man. Combined, we have over 70 years of experience. Dylan and I face every project or challenge that comes our way. I learned my trade from my father, who was a builder until his eyesight failed him. I was showing some employees a picture of my father working on the second-story eaves of his home, and I said, "Can you believe he's 82 and up on a homemade scaffold?" They said, "He's 82? I replied, "Yes, and he's blind. Don't ever tell me it can't be done." So if you want quality, professional service for your home or business, give us a call at 910-231-6020 or go to markmarkley.com. Besides my involvement in product recovery, I'm also in the construction business. I say that to say this. When we have tropical storms or hurricanes, the real hard, difficult, expensive, and dangerous work is usually the result of trees falling on homes or other personal property. Hurricane season is not the only time to get prepared for this. As a matter of fact, it's before and after hurricane season that you need to get prepared. My son Chris started his tree business called Climb Pro Expert Tree Care after Hurricane Florence. Chris has all the equipment and manpower to take on even the most challenging jobs. With over 20 years of combined experience, Climb Pro LLC can safely remove any unwanted hazardous trees from your property. They also offer tree pruning, elevation, dead wood removal, and other expert tree care services. Don't wait until you have a tree emergency. Visit climbpro.com, that's climb with a K. Check them out on Facebook or call Chris Markley at 910-540-5249. Mention this ad for a 10% discount. And welcome back to Recovering Hope. My name is Mark Markley. My in-studio guest is my friend Wayne Ray of Launchpad Wellness. And on the phone, we have Jon Clarke of Love Wins Counseling. Hello, Jon.
Hello. How are you? I didn't realize we had Wayne with us, too, tonight. That's great.
Well, I figured I'd surprise you.
Nice. How you doing, Wayne?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, buddy?
Great.
Yeah, you know, when I asked Wayne if he knew you, he said that there was someone that he knows that was in one of your recovery residences. Was it Asheville?
Yes, Oak Tree.
Yeah, in Asheville. At,
Oak Tree.
Oak Tree Recovery, yeah. Wayne and I were, on opposite sides of the state in the same business.
Mm-hmm. And now you have relocated to Southport.
Correct.
Yeah.
And kind of downsized a little bit from what I had up in Asheville.
It sounds like you did, yes. What kind of facility was that? How big was it? Was it 26 bed or something?
33 beds.
Wow.
Kind of started small with just, I think it was 10 beds. But, the demand is out there, especially in places like Asheville as well as in Wilmington. It's just there's so many young people in need of a safe place to land. This thing called recovery.
It's a good way to put it.
Not something that happens overnight.
No, it's not. And Wayne and I were just talking about that. It takes time, and people want the quick fix, like the quick fix to help escape. But there really isn't any magic pill or other substance. But Jon, give us just about a 2-minute review of, if you will, on what got you where you are and what you're doing now.
Well, what got me where I'm at, in terms of I'm in recovery myself, and have kind of a pretty rough story of being out there for close to 25 years, struggling with drugs and alcohol. But throughout that, early on, I got a degree in in psychology and counseling. So I had that background. And once I got myself straightened out about 11 years ago, I quickly found myself gravitating back into the clinical field. So that's kind of how it launched. I actually got sober up in Black Mountain, which is right outside of Asheville.
Right.
And kind of God started working in my life. I didn't have big plans to start a big facility up in Asheville, but
yes,
like
but he knew the plans small. That he had for you.
Oh my
Jeremiah
goodness.
29:11. Okay.
Yeah. So, but you know, I've always wanted to live at the coast, so I did that for 7 years. I give Wayne so much credit he's been doing it for a lot longer than I did, and it's you know, it's a kind of a sacrificial lifestyle. It's 24/7. You got to be ready for whatever life throws at you. So that's kind of how I landed back over in the Southport Oak Island. My sisters live here, and we're all going to grow old and retire together. Yeah.
I thought you did that already. I'm kidding. Not retire, grow old. You're newlywed, man. I mean, you're not even married a year yet, right?
No, I got married on November 1st of last year to a wonderful, the love of my life, and it's my first marriage, which tells you. I should say it's my second marriage, because my first marriage was to drugs and alcohol.
Yes, I thought you were going to say that. Well, you know, you said you have a degree in psychology and something else, but John, I'll tell you, just my experience with you and you coming down to Prodigal Recovery a few times, you're a natural. I mean, the degrees are good, and I wish I had one. My PhD is a personal hunger and desire, but you really are. You're a very good counselor, and you know, one thing I want to kind of toss around with both you and Wayne here, have a little oval table discussion, because it's not a round table. You know, and I've brought this up before on the program, is, you know, somebody that's listening, whether it's themselves or perhaps a mom or a dad, can you guys, let's just talk about maybe recommending some steps. The addiction is clear, whether the son, daughter, or the individual is admitting it or not, but it's clear that there is a problem. Is there recommended steps? And I'm not talking about the 12 steps, but that's something that's highly recommended. How would you answer that, you guys? Just one at a time, or? Go ahead, you first, John.
Okay. One thing I want to throw in on that PhD.
Yes.
The other acronym for that is poor, hopeless, drunk.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess when you go through that, you learn the others.
Yeah, I had the PhD as that too. So, yeah, it is tricky working with someone that has substance abuse. You said as a parent, talking to, you know, a teenager or somebody in their early 20s. Basically, what the parent would need to understand is they have two diseases, and one of them might be addiction, and the other one is definitely adolescence. Which comes with that is tremendous invincibility. It won't happen to me.
Right.
I got this.
Right.
And unfortunately, the number one symptom of the disease of addiction is denial. That I don't have this. I have it under control. So it's a double whammy when you're dealing with a young person in addiction. That's the negative side.
Right.
You know, basically, you know, the job of the parent is to begin to, you know, try to take advantage of times when there is it's inevitable that there's going to be painful situations. That's when the child might be most vulnerable, most willing to get some help, or at least get in front of somebody for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Most parents look at tragic events or painful events as being, oh my God, I can't believe this has happened. That's terrible. And it is terrible.
Right.
But on the flip side of that, those are when the window gets cracked open. Take advantage of times like that. There's only short windows where that window of opportunity might be available. So that's one thing I would really emphasize, is not just to kind of gloss over or just put a pillow under your child when they fall. That's an opportunity for them to get help.
Yeah, very
so
good
I don't
point.
know. I'll let Wayne pitch in on that a little bit.
Yeah,
I totally agree, John. It's a family disease, addiction, substance use disorder, and my friend Tab Ballas, who was a local clinician, and he was my supervisor. He has this thing. He tells we've done some groups together, and he tells the family members. He said, "Look, if the insurance companies would only pay for the treatment of one person from a family who has the identified patient in that family is someone with addiction." He said, if they're only going to pay for the treatment of one member of the family, he said, I get to choose which one it is. He said, I'm not going to pick the person that has addiction. I'm going to pick the chief enabler to counsel, because if we can get them on board and live in a more healthy way. I thought you were going to say, when you said two diseases, usually you said adolescence was the other one. I thought you were going to say codependency. It hardly ever happens where the person is able to continue using without someone that is helping them. And my friend Tab says, follow the money. How is the person
funded?
That's exactly right. Yeah. But I also agree, when they reach out for help, whether it's through the judicial system, criminal justice system, the hospital, something like that, that's the time you got to grab that hand, because the clock is ticking. They're going to change their mind when they start to
absolutely.
They start to realize that maybe it wasn't so bad, or they started detoxing really heavily, withdrawal. And if they're in jail, for goodness sake, leave them in jail and at least pass the time, for the withdrawals to get better. And that's depending on what drug it is. I would say at least a week or two, depending on what's going on. They're not going to like it, of course, and but they may be opened up for some suggestion when they get on the other side of that.
Yes, and it'll be a lesson they won't soon forget.
Right, and they don't. So many people will get them out immediately. The horrors of jail, and I assure you, if you have found out about your loved ones, and especially if it's your child's substance use disorder right now, that they've been doing some things worse than jail. They've already been exposed to some things worse than jail.
Good point.
And jail's not going to hurt them that bad. For a lot of great things have been started, from a jail environment, and then maybe I know you're familiar with this treatment center, but a loved one in my family, I picked them up from there, and we went straight to Four Circles, and that's where we heard about Oak Tree. And anyway, we had to go straight there. It was no hangout or anything.
Do not stop it.
It's has to be very quickly. That's what I would advise. And I could talk all night long about this. This is a good topic, Mark.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give it back to you, John.
Well, let me throw something in here real quick too. One of the things that looking back, 2020, I think one of the biggest mistakes I made was enabling, for sure. And it's so hard because you think that by doing something for them, giving them what they want, whether it's food, money, bed, clothing, a new set of clothing, that will heal the relationship that is so badly damaged. But folks, if you're listening, you're getting some, not necessarily from me, but from these other gentlemen, some very good words of wisdom. And again, from my perspective as parent of dealt with a lot of addiction in my family, that enabling was something, again, in hindsight. And I read something from Laura Lee Rosano a little while ago, and that's one of the biggest things that she speaks about as well. So it's over to you, John.
Yeah. A couple things there. One is, a parent needs to, ask themselves, as much as they're doing for the child, at some point, typically substance abuse takes place over a number of years. If they can look at and honestly answer, is my child getting better or sicker? And with substance abuse, typically, if they're honest, they're getting sicker despite their efforts.
Right.
The other that a parent needs to understand, if is if the love of a parent could keep a child sober, Wayne and I wouldn't have jobs. There wouldn't be treatment centers. There wouldn't be AA. There's not an addict or an alcoholic out there that's not loved. It's just, and that's not that we don't, that to stop loving your child. Just recognize that won't cure it. You can't cure addiction as a parent.
Well, you know, you
didn't cause it either.
You just said something that I was about to read here, John. I was in the opening of the show. I was talking about Dr. Nora Volkow. You're probably familiar with her as well. She's the director of the National Institute on Drug Abuse. But in some of her writings, she said we can treat addiction, but we can't cure it. And that's an important distinction.
There's 3 C's that a parent should know. They didn't cause it, they can't control it, and they can't cure it. Those 3 C's will save them so much.
Yeah, that's a good one. Didn't cause it, can't
control it.
Control it.
Can't control it. Yeah, didn't cause it, can't control it, and can't cure it.
Can't cure it. Yeah.
Most parents are stuck in trying to control it.
Oh, yeah.
Just like the addict is trying to control it. It's like Wayne was saying. They're doing the same thing the addict is. They're just not using the drug. But everybody in the family is trying to control it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was something that was so hard for me as a father that I realized I am out of control. I can't control this. I can't change it. And that's one of the things that you got to give up to God. You know, like, I can't do it.
There you go.
I can pray, and I will pray, and that's why I have a kind of a new term for the Recovering Hope Godcast, because we involve him. And John, you're hearing that noise every 5 minutes in respect for the lives that are being lost. Every 5.5 minutes, I think, statistically, the current statistics. And I'm just trying to bring that information to light. I remember Dan Schneider, the pharmacist, had said that he thinks that part of what helped to end the Vietnam War was when, I think it was Walter Cronkite, would read the statistics of the deaths every night on the news. And that's been ringing in the back of my mind. And it occurred to me, I think last week when I saw those numbers, then I got on my calculator and did the math. I said, that's almost every 5 minutes. And then I read it, somebody else had written that. And so I just want to do that every show now. And hopefully, prayerfully, as this show progresses, that those numbers, that time between the dings will increase.
And that's, somebody's dying every 5 minutes. Is that what that indicates?
Yeah, 5.5, I think. Yep.
That's powerful, Mark. I really like it. I hate it, but it's good awareness.
Right. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do awareness here. Yeah. So the enabling is a big one. The signs, again, there are many homes where maybe this is just the beginning. What are some things that maybe moms, dads, siblings?
The other thing where parents drop the ball on this thing is if it doesn't come as a surprise, they're typically aware that their child has a substance abuse problem.
Yeah.
Is do the research ahead of time and have what counselor you're going to call, what detox you might use, explore some treatment centers. Because what happens is the child comes to mom and says, Mom, I need help.
Right.
And then it takes her 3 days to figure out what she's going to do. Yep. And in those 3 days, they lose the child again.
Yeah.
So be preemptive in a plan to help your child.
Yeah, very good point. And I give my wife credit for that because she was prepared. She said, I'm going to be ready when my son said, okay, I need help. And he said, I'm ready. And Lynn said, okay, let's go. And Wilmington treatment was
that's it.
Yeah, that's very important, John. And I mentioned earlier there are so many resources. Prodigal Recovery is kind of a very basic recovery residence. Wayne here runs a very complex recovery community that covers all aspects of recovery. But there are tools all over this region, all over the whole country, really, maybe not as much in the rural areas, but there are tools out there. People get to know what the tools are. And the reason I just mentioned, that we're kind of a basic structured living environment is because we are, but we recommend, we know that there are other places that offer more services. What are we going to do down the road? I'm not really sure. I'm open for learning, other and better ways to truly care for the men that are living at our home. But there are so many resources out there, and if somebody really wants it, I'm in the middle of reading a book, and I'm a slow reader, but I get distracted because I'm interviewing a lot of people. A book by a man named Michael Brody Waite. He wrote a book saying great leaders live like drug addicts. And boy, the similarities, the analogies, and this guy went on to be a multimillionaire. He started a business called In Quicker. And it's a software program to get people registered online at hospitals. And it took off. It took off really, really big. But
In Quicker, that's awesome.
Yeah, let's get you in quicker. Michael Brody Waite has a lot of very good information. He's going to be a guest coming up. We haven't picked a date yet because now that COVID is subsiding, hopefully, continually, forever and ever, he's getting really, really busy. But he's got some great information on this book. He lives by 3 principles. Let's see if I can remember them. Pursue rigorous authenticity. Very important. Surrender the outcome and do uncomfortable work. And then repeat them.
I bet he was a crack addict.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what his drug of choice was.
They can get some things done if they ever get into recovery, buddy. They can figure some things out, get some things done, in my experience.
But that same drive, that same motivation is, I'll do whatever it takes to get high. I'll go anywhere. I'll do right, and to apply that same sort of thinking, but doing it legally. I got to tell you, my son Chris is doing that. He did whatever it took. And now he's got a very successful tree business because he saw the opportunities. He saw, hey, I can do this. I can do it. I can find men to do it with me. And, man, he's killing it.
There's research that says sober addicts and alcoholics, on average, make 3 times more than the normal person.
Oh, wow.
They're problem solvers. They're problem solvers.
Now you're encouraging people to get addicted, John. This isn't what the show's about.
I'm encouraging them to get sober. They're not making the money while they're high.
Right. Yeah, some of them are, but no. But that's
definitely not saving it anyway.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point.
But what was the second one you just said there, Mark?
Practice rigorous authenticity. Surrender the outcome.
Yeah, and that's real important. There's so much of my work that I work with people. It's so much. I often tell them we're in the efforts business. We're not in the results business. And it's, that's where God comes into play. Having a relationship with power that you can turn it over to. And it takes so much pressure off us not to be in control of the results.
Yeah.
And to trust that they're going to come out way better anyways.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? Again, I don't mean to boast about my son again, but I will. I mean, I see that's what he's doing. He goes for it. I remember when he told me over a year ago he was advertising in some prestigious magazine for $500 a month. He's the only tree service in the magazine. It's like, gee, you lock it into $500 a month? I mean, that's nothing. The kid's got billboards around town. He wrapped his truck, and all right, Chris, if you're listening, put your head, back together. But I see that this is what he has done, and he really is a good example. But I say this too, almost every time I talk about that. I don't care if he worked at a fast food joint and was flipping burgers, because the important thing, folks, is staying drug and alcohol free. Being responsible, have some a good job, and that's not the word I was looking for there, but just to be responsible. And he's raising a family now, and but he just happens to be doing that as an entrepreneur. He's got that Markley entrepreneurial spirit. Yeah.
emphasize he's been sober for a little while, and
Yes.
for those people that might be listening, or parents or people that are currently struggling, it takes time. Those take years.
Yes.
There's somebody recently said to me, and it just kind of struck. He said God works slower than alcohol, and that's a difficult thing.
Yeah, yeah. He's got his own timeline there, and he's not limited like we are to time. I think it was about 4 years that Chris had clean, and then sadly he had that tragic accident, and was on some serious pain medication for quite some time. But he got off of that with the help of Dr. Sconsis, a local pain. What's the word there, Wayne? Pain management doctor.
Pain management.
yeah. And okay. Speaking of pain management, we have coming up sometime next month, I think the end of August, Dr. Ken Finn. He is a pain management doctor, but he has done a lot of research about marijuana. So let's talk about that a little bit. The dangers of let's just call it pot. I don't like to use 3-syllable words if I don't have to. 4-syllable. But he was talking about some statistics. Pardon my S's there, it's these new teeth, that with the legalization of pot, one of the theories was that it would reduce the amount of other drugs, particularly but not limited to opiates, and the overdoses. Well, he's got stats. I could probably bring up some of the information that I had written from him from a conversation that we had, but way up. The deaths associated with other overdoses, the other drug uses, because in these places where they've legalized pot. What do you guys know about that? Anything? Wayne, we'll start with you on this one.
I try to keep an open mind, Mark. I was taught that like a long time ago. I don't have it all figured out. I've almost decided 93,000 have passed away last year. Yeah. I've almost decided, without seeing a whole lot of research, that I wish they would just. I'm thinking about maybe just what would it be like if they legalized it all again, and someone that at least when they were buying an opiate, that they would know that it was a real opiate instead of. It was what the dose was instead of fentanyl.
Right.
I'm just so saddened by close friends, family members, and loved ones, and I think that is just you can't. People that are doing drugs, whether it's cocaine, meth, even it all has fentanyl in it.
Yeah.
I've been reading drug tests. That's one of the things I do for my job is read the results of lab tests, and I hardly have seen any morphine, which if you were doing heroin, that's what they say they're doing is heroin. And yet, just had a guy last week. He said he had a Percocet, and it was not a Percocet. It was a fentanyl press pill. So if they legalized everything, so I can't speak to the marijuana. I do know that alcohol, which is legal, and I know our country tried that in the back in the 20s, right? Yeah. And what happened to that? Everything went underground, and you saw a lot of poisoning, like you're seeing right now with the fentanyl.
Yeah.
I work in the recovery side, and I hope, by our work and people like us, we can help the people that want to get clean and want to be in recovery for real. But it's tough. It's going to take all you got. If you're an individual, it is doable. And I know thousands personally that are in recovery. But I know I didn't speak to the marijuana thing. I do know it's not your grandmother's weed that they're smoking nowadays. And I don't know how people drive, operate machinery, or do anything.
I know.
So I don't know how they make a good choice about anything when they're under the influence of some of that.
Right.
Anyway.
Oh no, it is. And I think in our conversation, Dr. Finn had said that the THC levels in today's pot is like 90% compared to 7% back in my day. I mean, when that good stuff came around, it was like, whoa, we got to get some of that. And now it's like that's all that's out there. And my son would bring some into the house from time to time, and I could walk in his room, and even though it was in his drawer in a plastic bag, I could smell it when I walked in the room. I was like, where was that stuff when I was a kid? No, kidding. But John, what have you found in your work with today's pot?
Well, I can't really speak as any sort of expert on it as well. I have mixed thoughts on it. I do think that the research that I've read and some people I've talked to, that the medicinal side of it, I think there is probably some validity into some people really experiencing some relief from various symptoms, whether it be mental health or cancer patients and things like that. So I think there is value in terms of legalizing it across the board. Like you guys are saying, it's scary to think at the THC levels, people, being on the road and your doctor, and it seems like it's a little scary to put ourselves into that. So I'm reluctant to say, yeah, let's just open it up. Sometimes, I mean, I guess I struggle with some of the legal ramifications of people that might be using it at home or fail a drug test at their job. I mean, so there's so many pros and cons to it. Yeah. But in terms of legalizing it across the board, I'd be reluctant to jump on that bandwagon. The one thing I will say that I've noticed is I know people in AA that, quote, are doing great and they're in recovery, but they have to some degree a marijuana maintenance program where, it's kind of frowned upon in AA, but I think, it's looked the other way. There has been people that I felt as if that to some degree their spiritual growth, maybe their ability to really launch into AA in terms of diving in and helping a lot of people. It seems to me that the marijuana maintenance are people that maybe it's shame or whatever, are reluctant to dive into recovery full blown. It might be the stigma attached, but I see it working against them rather than for them. So it makes me kind of sad when I see that. I feel like it hurts their recovery and their spiritual growth. Yeah, no, I'm sure it does. And I think that, well, obviously there are people that, may have stopped, whether it's drinking or let's call it a hard drug, and maybe they're smoking pot, maybe they drink a little wine or beer. Look, I think it's best for 100% abstinence. I'm not, don't get me wrong, but, I remember reading something about Kratom a couple of years ago, and this one fella, is, whether it was AA or NA, somebody, look, you can't do anything, and this guy wasn't dealing with his anxiety. He drove off a bridge. That's where somebody like you and Wayne come in your roles as counselors, is to to get that help, to reach out and to talk to someone. But I'm going to recommend, I just looked at my notes here, we're speaking with Dr. Ken Finn on August 25th, and I'll post it on Facebook and remind people, but it was a very, very interesting, and I would say that he's 100% against this legalization and medical marijuana. He has a knee problem, and he went in, he just wanted to see how easy it was to get his what he calls a pot pass. And he said, on a scale of 1 to 10, my pain level was a 1. But it took him, after an application, which was about 15 minutes, talking to somebody, it took him 1 minute to get his pot pass. And when he has looked, he's done a lot of research into this. And let's see, there's a link between marijuana and suicides. It's one of the most common drugs in people's systems when they've killed themselves is marijuana. And this is today's stuff. Oh, today's. I mean, for the past maybe 10 years or more, it's been very potent. The environmental damage of these people that are growing it illegally, are using illegal pesticides, whatever they can to make that plant grow and taste good and do funny things to your mind. But the wildlife that it's killing, because they're going around these plants and they're eating them, they're taking other things out of the soil. He said the dollar figure for, I don't know if this was the whole state of California or a portion of it, but the dollar value of the damage that was done was $70 billion. He said, to put that into perspective, the Gulf oil spill from BP years ago was $60 billion. That seemed catastrophic. It was catastrophic. But this is now, as a result of illegally grown pot in California, $70 billion worth of damage. And there's so many other things that most people don't look at. You're really up on your really up on your stuff. I'll tell you that.
Well, I'm not. Dr. Finn is, but I just get to know these people somehow. I think I had sent him an email 2 months ago, because I email people, I search them, look them up, and he sends me an email. Okay, Mark, sure, let's talk. And we talked on the phone for probably 45 minutes. He answers the phone. Hello, this is Ken. Hey, Ken, how you doing? But no, I mean, there's there are 70% of women given a prescription for pot in their first trimester of pregnancy. Just a lot of other. I'm not just going to randomly read these stats because I just don't want to just what's the word I'm looking for? Do damage to the interview. But let's get back here. We've got only a few minutes here, John, and I always like to end these programs on a positive, upbeat note. Give us some hope. Give the listeners some hope, and then I'll ask Wayne the same thing. So, Wayne, you get to prepare.
Give us some hope.
Yeah.
You know what Wayne said just a few minutes ago. This can be done. It is doable. It takes some work, and the hopeful thing that I have to say is whether you're a family member or somebody that's thinking about maybe trying to see what recovery looks like. Whatever phase you're at, this disease will tell you are all by yourself and nobody will understand. And I want everyone that might be listening or might down the road is to recognize you are not alone. Your situation is not unique. It's very, really the opposite of that. It's very predictable. There's direct, there's directions in terms of how to kind of manage early recovery. There's people that will hold your hand. There's people that will sit by you. It's such an incredibly loving fellowship that awaits you. It's just picking up that phone, knocking on that door, and you'll be wrapped in so much love and understanding, and all those fears will dissipate quickly. So it's just that first step that's courageous. So I want everybody to hear that.
Very good. And John, I want to repeat something that you said, I think the last time I spoke to you, and you're not, neither one of us are recommending this, but you say, even if you are high or even drunk, it's okay to call you, to come meet with you. I mean, that's what it's all about, John, your website, is it lovewindscounseling.org.com?
Yep, lovewins.com.
Lovewindscounseling.com. And the best number for John, 704-249-4231. John, thank you so much for your time. Look forward to doing it again fairly soon. I'm booking into the beginning of September now, so let's markly our calendars, and we'll, I used to say that a lot, and we'll get you back. And we'd love to see you up at Product Recovery again one of these days, if you can.
Yeah, give me a holler. I'd like to come up there and talk with the guys.
All right.
Hey, John, while you were talking, I heard you use the word launch 2 different times. So remember, Launchpad, when you're coming up to Wilmington, we'd love to have you to come talk to our group as well.
There you go.
I'm sure they would love to have you, an experienced guy, a mountain man like yourself.
Wonderful. Wayne, man, I'm glad we got to kind of connect vicariously through Mark this time, and
me too.
Let's make it happen.
All right. Thanks, bud. All right, Wayne.
Good night.
Where's the hope, buddy?
The hope is we do recover. People are recovering. I have never met one person that said, "Dang gummit, I should have relapsed yesterday." I don't know what I was thinking about. Yesterday would have been a really good time to go backwards in life. But I've met many that were so sad that they had to make that choice. But you don't have to. It will pass. This too shall pass.
That's right.
There is a lot of help. Wilmington, North Carolina is I think the #1 place that I've ever seen, and I've been all over this country, is for per capita for opportunities to find recovery.
Yeah, great.
More meetings, more clinicians, more help here.
LaunchpadWellness.com?
No, it's newlifelaunchpad.com, and under our umbrella we have Launchpad on the housing side and Launchpad Wellness under the clinical side.
Okay.
We have a great nurse practitioner and great group of clinicians on that side.
Yeah, wow. And best number for you, Wayne?
910-632-2344.
632-2344.
Yes, sir.
And Wayne, thanks a lot for your time, bud. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Next week, we're going to hear from a very special lady, Deanna Allen. Her specialty is dealing with those incarcerated and those that are seeking a new life after incarceration. I forgot to say hello to my friend Derek. So, Derek, hello, buddy, and hope to see you soon. God bless and good night.
A hallelujah in the presence of my enemies. I raise a hallelujah louder than the unbelief. I raise a hallelujah. My weapon is a melody.
Bringing you the best local talk radio shows, Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7 FM, WFBT, Carolina Beach.